Hey everyone. So, just thought I'd make this video to talk to you all a little bit about my philosophy on dog training and dog behavior. Now, I've been a dog trainer for over a decade now, and over these years, I've come across all sorts of dogs. Um, it's really been an enriching experience. But to tell you a little bit about how I got into this profession. Um, I've always been fascinated with animals right from the time I was a kid. I used to watch Animal Planet. I used to watch the Discovery Channel, and I was quite an introverted, shy kid. So animals were really fascinating to me. And although I was scared of dogs, I grew up in a very uh, orthodox Brahmin house, right? So dogs were not usually a part of the picture there. So I grew up being scared. We're always told to be afraid of dogs, but it wasn't maybe until I, turned um, maybe 9 or 10. I started getting comfortable with this dog that used to live near our house. And after a while, as I grew up and it's always during these teenage years that you start to get even more introverted for some reason. I guess that's the case with all the introverts out there. So, in my teenage years, I started to befriend and feed dogs in my school. Here in India, we've got a lot of dogs that just coexist with the human population quite in a very nice, organic way. So, we had a couple of dogs in school, and, I used to feed a bit of my lunch to them every day. And one particular dog I grew very close to would be a daily acquaintance. And as a matter of fact, it's through this dog that I actually learned to make friends because I wasn't comfortable with, going up to people and just talking to them. So, a lot of people would actually engage in conversation with me only because of this dog that I named Jam. Funny fact, I named her Jam because I used to feed her bread butter jam. So, that was really how it started. And from there, it was something that was growing passively. It was something that I was very passionate about, but I didn't realize. Through my college years and school years, I was also very invested in basketball as a sport. And you know, uh, as I went ahead, I realized I couldn't do much with basketball because I had a bad injury. That's really where the switch happened. And somewhere along the way, of course, the dog, this angel of a dog that has brought so much of transformation into my life, Cleo. She We got Cleo in on 2000 in 2013, and yeah, I mean since then it's just been an amazing journey. So this is really where I started, and because I was so obsessed with dogs, I would often tell my parents that I'd want to spend the night with the dogs on the street, which was quite a shocker to them. Of course, I didn't get the chance to do it, but I would never miss an opportunity to hang out with the dogs on the street because I felt that it was with these dogs that I could see their raw, unfiltered behavior, right? Because having grown up watching, uh, cartoons and shows, like the Wild Thornberries and Pokemon and you name it, you're always fascinated uh, with this thing about being able to communicate with other species, with animals. So it's a fascination that I grew up with, and I think it translated onto dogs. And I was just so eager to understand what's going on in their minds, to want to, connect with them, to understand them better. And that's really where it all began. Now, uh, as uh, as time went ahead, I started, doing a couple of courses. I studied dog training. I learned under a bunch of mentors, and of course, the knowledge has really helped me. And if I am who I am today, it's because of all the knowledge and the mentors that I've had. Uh, and but now, 10 years down the line, and the reason I'm making this video is to talk to you about how things are really going back to where it all started. In dog training, the science of dog training, I'd say, we learn so much about, all these common psychology principles. We learn about classical conditioning, we learn about operant conditioning, we learn about positive reinforcement, we learn about using rewards, we learn about using tools like the clicker, we learn about consistency and so many different things, and all of it has its role to play. I mean, the dog training world has evolved so much today from what it was once. It was once just about taming the dog or breaking the dog, rather, as they'd call it for gun dogs. And today it's really evolved into something so magnificent. To see the sheer potential and the being unlocked with all dogs, it really makes me so happy. So it's really evolved so much, and a lot of it has to do with our research and study into the science of dog behavior. So yeah, I mean, the science has really developed, and I don't know how I'd help people without that science, because as a trainer, when I go to train dogs, very often, I cannot talk to them uh, in a manner that, because when you work with someone who's not as enthusiastic about you, regarding, about dogs, you you can't, speak to them in a way that would appeal to you. You'll have to kind of get to their level and communicate with them on those lines, right? So, very often I find myself using these principles to be able to help and guide these people better, because sometimes people just want a logical approach, right? They want a step by step way to work with their dog. And if I'm going to go talk to them about why the dog's doing that and how the dog's doing it and what the dog may be thinking at that time and how you can build a bond, that appeals only to a select few, right? For most of them, they just want to get the job done, right? So there, the science helps me explain and also helps me kind of give them these um, you know textbook solutions, I would say. Not that it's going to work 100%, but it kind of puts them in the right direction. So the science has definitely helped. But what I see is, over the years, I've had so many changes in my life. I've met my beautiful wife. I'm married, and now I've got 14 lovely dogs of our own. We started rescuing dogs, and then one added to the other, and then finally here we've moved. We've moved to a space that's away from the city to be able to accommodate and provide for the needs of these beautiful dogs, and we're really living a different kind of life now. But and so many things have changed in terms of my perspective and how I see dog training and dog behavior at large. Um, what one of the things that happens when you spend so much of time with dogs, as a matter of fact, I think I spend a lot more time with dogs than I do with people. um, one of the things that you realize is a lot of the things that you hear and do as a dog trainer become fairly redundant. I mean, of course, it all has had its role to play. You want to teach the dog uh, a set of behaviors. You want to make sure that they don't land into trouble, and that's essentially what training is about, right? You want to make sure that you have a hassle-free relationship with your dog. You're able to travel with them, you're able to have guests over. That's really what companion dog training is all about. I'm not talking about working dogs and the training dogs for sport here, right? I'm talking entirely about pet dog training, because that's the world that I've been immersed into. So yeah, as you spend more and more time with dogs, you realize that a lot of the training becomes redundant, and you yearn for something a lot more. I think a lot of that desire for training your dog comes from the social propaganda. I mean, uh, abroad, I know it's almost mandatory that you have to train your dog, which is good, and that's the reason why you have a lot of public spaces that are more accommodative of having dogs. Here in India, it's not that much of a staple yet, but I look forward to the time where, it does become kind of a standardized thing, where just as you get a vaccination for every puppy, you make sure that every dog goes through their round of training. This is good for the dog as well as the owner. But as I said, as you spend so much of time with dogs, what you start to realize is some of that training might actually be stunting the natural relationship that you can develop with the dogs. Now, what I mean by this is, we live in a village, and in the village, it's quite common for people to have a dog. They just adopt a dog from the street. There's a litter, and then they put a collar on a puppy. They start feeding the puppy. They start looking after the puppy, and the puppy becomes a part of the family. So, hello, that's my wife there. So, yeah, so the puppy becomes a part of the family, and then, before you know it, the dog's going at places with you, the dog's eating with you, sharing a resting place with you. And this is quite organic in the village. People in the village don't know about positive reinforcement, they don't know about uh, textbook dog training, but they manage to have such a wonderful relationship with the dog. And it's always made me wonder, what is it that these people have that we seem to be lacking in the city? Why is there such an immense need for dog training in the city, while it seems pretty much non-existent, something they'd laugh at, as a matter of fact, here in the village? And the answer is simplicity, right? I think in an attempt to kind of, in our attempt to strive for perfection, we're in this society where we want to kind of look a certain way, be a certain way. We want to feel worthy, right? And that we need validation from others. We need others to think that we're worthy. And in an attempt to have that, we end up pushing the same on our dogs as well. We're trying to train all of our dogs to a standard. You have all these fancy jargons and terms that you hear. And I hear average pet parents talking about these terms and, trying to train their dog to a standard, which is great till a certain point. But after a while, when I look at their dogs and I look at some of the dogs that are here in the village or some of our dogs, I feel that there's something missing there. And, we seem to take this path without realizing how much it's going to cost, to the actual relationship that we have with our dogs. Because um, when you bring that puppy home, it's actually a very spiritual journey that you're going to have with them. With every mistake that the puppy makes and every mistake that you make, there's going to be so much of learning. That contrast is actually going to lead you to so many new discoveries. So it's actually a fun journey. Um, um, I think people miss out on that, in an attempt to strive for that perfection from themselves and their dogs. I want to train my dog to be a certain way and all of that. I think a lot of those results can be reached without having to, you know, um, train your dog. As weird as it sounds, this is coming from the mouth of a dog trainer. A lot of these things can be achieved just by spending a lot of time with your dog, and I think that's really what is lacking. So right now, what I'm seeing, this is purely my observation, and of course, um, I have done my fair share of reading and research, but this is purely from my observation that the best thing that you can do with a puppy or a dog that you bring home is spend time with them. And when I say spend time with them, you need to stop thinking about all those things that you've been told about dogs, which is, you have to feed them a certain way, you have to sleep or get them to sleep in a crate, everything. It's really, I really don't know how to put this, but it's sad to say that I feel that most of what I've learned as a dog trainer is redundant, right? When you get a puppy home, essentially what they need is security and safety. Yeah, so what you're gonna have to do is sleep with them, eat with them, be with them, let them experience you to the fullest. And I think we kind of hold that back. We're trying all these artificial means. We're using a crate, we're using a lot of treats to bribe and lure our dogs. Uh, but essentially, I think a lot gets missed out. And I think a lot of relationships, the relationships with dogs is based on food, is based on this whole concept of motivation, where you need to get the dog to work. And I hear dog trainers everywhere, and I myself have said this, that you talk about, eh, no one works without a pay, right? You need to pay, and then you get something, and that's how the dog learns that, hey, I get a reward and I do something for the reward. No dog works for free, and it's something I've told myself. But in a family, and here in India, we have these tight, close-knit families. We have big, joint families. It's not always the case, right? Sometimes it's about a relationship. It's about a role that you have in a family, in a bigger, in a pack. And I think these things just get overlooked. You'd be surprised how, that communication with your dog isn't just about markers and rewards, right? It's really something that you develop. A dog or an animal is capable of understanding you in ways that you can't comprehend. A training, if anything, is only setting a bar to that, right? And I'm not saying you shouldn't train your dog. Training is a fun way to connect with your dog, to play with them, to engage with them. But to think that this training system, to kind of incorporate into everything that you do, is really not the way to go. I have raised dogs entirely, as per the books, trained them to the T, used rewards, used markers, used everything that you should be doing. And I've raised wonderful dogs that way. But what I've just realized is, it's not as fulfilling as it is to raise a dog in a more organic way. And the organic way is to raise a dog in a very organic fashion. As I mentioned earlier, it's about sleeping with your dog, it's about eating with your dog, not worrying about separation anxiety or worrying that they'll start begging from the table. It teaches a dog. Today, some of the most balanced dogs that I have are dogs that have eaten with us every single meal. So as I eat, I share. Of course, we keep in mind what dogs can eat, and what they can't eat. But we do that, right? So essentially, my philosophy on dog training right now is that we need to just learn to be with our dogs. Of course, you need to understand a little bit about how dogs learn and what their psychology is like, based off of all the research that humans have done. But it's also important to learn how to be with dogs, right? So when a pet parent gets a dog, what they need more than all these concepts and learning how to use treats and deliver treats of the hand, is just someone to guide them through the various things they're going to be experiencing with the dog. So if it's traveling in the car, go for a ride in the car and see what happens, and help the dog, soothe the dog. Dogs are capable of understanding. We've also become so used to this instant gratification. We want the dog to just learn in a day. It doesn't work that way in nature. Nature is slow, right? You need to be slow and in tune with nature. So, teaching your dog something is not a one-day affair. It's about spending every day with them and guiding them and showing them. You have to be their mentor. You have to be their guide. Just like a parent in the animal kingdom would be to their offspring, right? So it's really a beautiful journey, and I don't want to stretch this video too long, but I just thought I'd share my views. I know that a lot of you might think differently, and I totally respect that, because we all have our own interpretations and observations. But I just wanted to share and get your views on this, because I'm just curious what people think. Of course, my life is very different. The fact that I spend more time with dogs than people should tell you that circumstances may be very different for someone else who's living in a city, and who has a 9 to 5 and has a dog with them, and a lot of these things may not be possible. But anyway, there's so much I've learned, just by letting loose and just being with dogs. And I want to be able to share that knowledge and these experiences with you, along with, of course, the technical side of dog training as well. And that's really what we're trying to, I will try to create and share through this channel. So anyways, I hope you guys, enjoy the content that we're going to share in the future. And Do share your views, and do subscribe to our channel. It's a mixture of fun and all sorts of stuff. It's not one of those textbook dog trainer channels. Me and my wife, we just like to have fun, and I think the the birthplace of something beautiful happens through ease and fun, right? So dog training, if that is the word we want to use, needs to be easy and fun. And I think that's a big lesson I've also learned from my wife, because uh, my wife was just wanted to bring that in there. My wife was very scared of dogs when I first met her, and she had this beautiful golden retriever, and I watched her interact with this dog without any past knowledge of dogs or without any contamination, and I saw something beautiful. And I do see the same thing in these Indian villages and with a lot of people in India, actually. I mean, in certain parts of India, it's totally uncontaminated, and you see the most beautiful relationships with the dog. The dog understands everything that they say, and I'm not kidding. I'm telling this as a dog trainer. The dog can understand every single thing they're trying to say, every expression. And the secret does not lie in markers, reinforcement, and all those fancy jargons you hear out there. It lies in spending time and connecting with your dog. Trust me, it is a journey that you don't want to compromise on. Yeah, so I think that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Stay tuned for more informational content and some more fun videos. Yeah, thanks so much. See you. Bye.